Hey everybody, welcome back. Steve from the Pinball Room. I'm so excited. We finally have warm weather here in Utah. It is a balmy 76.8 degrees in my garage right now. We've got pinball machines all covered down, everything with a horizontal surface anywhere near the booth that I care about is covered. Today, we're gonna finally go through and try shooting some clear coat. Woo! I've got an old whitewood in the booth right now I'm gonna kind of practice on. Then we'll move to the whitewood with the actual inserts. We're gonna spray that all down. I've also got a few gaps around some of those inserts. I'm gonna practice doing Vid's method where I've got these little eyedroppers, really fine point syringes that my wife's gonna donate that we're gonna mix up some of the clear coat in the cap. We're gonna spray that in, try to fill those gaps. And yeah, so safety first, clear coat, hence the booth with the fans and everything. We're gonna open a couple doors, the garage door a little bit, make sure we have some good ventilation going on, and you must have the proper mask and filter. Respirator. Let me show you what I'm not using. So I got this maroon, I don't know, P6000 full face respirator with the proper respirator filters, cartridges on this that'll filter out all the fine particulates, the isocyanates that'll like destroy our lungs and kill us. This is a full face mask. I thought it was gonna work great, but I could not get a tight enough seal around my beard. And my wife really didn't want me to shave it off. I really don't want to shave it off. That's what we're going to be down to. But big shout out to everybody on Patreon. Thank you so much. There's so many of you. I mean, a few people have come and gone. It is what it is. Patreon kind of comes and goes, right? But I appreciate everyone's support. There's a handful of you, even the $25 super jackpot level. Thank you so much that has stuck around. And now after a handful of months, I was able to go through and use those meager funds, but I really appreciate it. And I found what should be the solution to save my beard. It is a 3M full hood, full face respirator system that pumps the air in, covers my whole entire head. Found one on an amazing deal for like 80% off on Amazon. It's got good reviews. So we're gonna open this bad boy up and see if we can't make this work and save the beard. If not, then we're gonna trim down the beard. Because I've been waiting like almost a month for this weather to get out under control here. So we gotta get moving on this thing. All right, let's see what we can do with this crazy contraption. All right, here we go. Battery, it's at 100%. I did find in the instructions, it takes about 3 hours for the full charge. We're now at 100%. So this, look at that. Battery test, full green bars. We're set. We gotta shove that in. Boom. Probably need to get the rest of my suit on. So, we're almost there. This stuff, the stuff I'm using, the 2K SprayMax Clear Glamour. It's got this little fancy thing on the bottom. You take this red piece out of the cap. You put it on the bottom. And you smash it down on. There we go. And now you shake. You shake and you shake for 2 minutes. And then another 2 minutes, I forget. You shake it for a lot. Whew. That'll give you a workout. It's kind of hot in here. All right. All right. Hey, how's it going? Get our gloves on. Yeah, I can breathe. I feel good. All right, We're gonna go in there, gonna get the fans on. The camera is gonna be on the outside because I don't want to get covered in clear. So I'm not sure how much you'll be able to see. All right, into the chamber. On a 2. Oh! And on a 3. All right. All right, so I just did a quick once over. I'm gonna do a second coat, just a little bit heavier. Let us hit it for a full 40 minutes. Do a third coat, the same. Let us hit it for 40 minutes and I'll come back through and I'll do some sanding and we'll see what it looks like, okay? All right. All right, lessons learned trying to go through do my own clear coat off the bat here for the first time. Definitely glad I was messing around with some scrap pieces of wood because first few times around, I was just wasting clear coat. Went through like a can and a half and I was not getting it to work. Okay, so here's the things I've learned so far. If you're using this specific clear, okay, in a can, the rattle can, I can't talk to any other specific clear or any other process because this is the only one I've used. I know they're similar, but I also know they're slightly distinct, right? The flash time, the pot life, all that type of stuff, how long it takes to kind of set up and then do a final cure. I'm sure that varies manufacturer to manufacturer, right? Okay, but specifically for using the rattle can of the 2K SprayMax Clear Glamour stuff, this works really well with a couple, really kind of one primary thing I'm not liking about it, okay? But let's just start from the beginning. So what I tried doing at first, I took Vid's Ultimate Restoration Guide steps and I followed them. But there were still a few little nuances and details that weren't quite in there. And again, a lot of it comes down, I think, to the specific clear you're using, okay? For example, he talked about, you're gonna go through and you're gonna clean it all off. You'll sand it down nice and smooth. You'll run it through with Naptha, okay? We did that. You'll have a tack cloth you'll take in and wipe down to get all the last little bits off. I was doing all that. But then when it came down time to spray, his instructions are spray a very fine mist first. Well, I've done enough painting to know that less is more, and so I did a very fine mist where like you can't even hardly see it, right? And according to what it said on here, 40 minutes to do its initial cure, I waited 40 minutes. And then I came back through and I tried to do another one. Waited 40 minutes. Came back through and I did another small one, and I said, okay, that should be pretty good, but I'm like, I was not seeing anything. It was so thin, I saw nothing. I said, all right, well, I could tell it was a little bit rough, so I did a little bit of sanding. I forgot you're supposed to wet sand this, so the first sanding just kind of like took it all right back down to the wood. It was nothing, so I kind of started from scratch. Did it again. Still wasn't getting anything good. I went through, I did like 7, 8 layers of this stuff, got a little bit thicker, I was thinking, but I still was just not seeing much. It was not going good. So I reached out to my friend Jamie. He's like, okay, Steve, what you need to do, there's like coats and subcoats is the best way to think of it, right? And he's found that with this, you don't want to wait 40 minutes. That's too long. Because then each one in between is like, it's too dry. For this specific clear of the SprayMax 2K, you only want to wait about 10 to 15 minutes max between each of your small little spray coats, all right? And so I started out really light, waited about 12 minutes. I went right in the middle, right? Came back out and did 2 quick passes, so kind of a double light mist. Waited about 12 minutes. And then the thing he pointed out was then after that, I've kind of got it started. Then he said, then go through and do like half the can. Do like, don't just like super slow and like soak it, but do a lot of good even passes back and forth for a while until you've used about half the can, okay? And it's still not so much that it like, by the time you walk out of the paint booth, you're gonna just see like, like a pool of clear. It's not that thick, but it is substantially, you've got a substantial amount on. And then you leave and let that really cure for 12 to 24 hours, depending on just how thick you're doing. I've been going about 16 hours. I know I'm not like so much on there. I need to wait probably a full 24. The real trick, as Jamie said, I think he's right, is if you go back in your paint booth or go back out to it, if you can still smell it, if you're like, Yeah, no, that still has a chemical smell. It's not quite ready. Wait until you really can't smell that. For me, it's been about 14, 16 hours with how much I've been putting on. And then you're gonna wet sand, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. That part has worked out really good. So I did that once already on this. I waited those 16 hours, came back out, I wet sanded. After you've wet sanded it and it looks good, okay, then you wipe it down with some naphtha. Let all that evaporate and dry. Waited about a half hour or so, let that all evaporate, and then I can go back in my booth, and then you repeat that whole process, okay? So that first process with those individual coats, I'm calling like the subcoats. Like, so the process again, you'll come back through and you'll do another quick light mist. That's kind of your initial subcoat, wait 12 minutes. Come back through, do 2 passes of that, wait 12 minutes. And then on that third pass, you're gonna put down about half the can, do a whole bunch of passes till you have really good coverage everywhere. And that is like one coat, okay? And let that cure for 12 to 24 hours. For me, it's been about 14, 16. Again, depending on your humidity, the temperature, etc. I'm in very arid Utah. It's been about 80 degrees. I probably could have done a little bit shorter than 16 hours, but you know, I had the time, so I waited. Anyways, so like that's one round or one full coat. And then you do that process all over again. And I'm on my second one and it's looking pretty good, but I'm still, I don't know, it's the whitewood. I'm probably going to do one more after this just so I can, just to kind of get these last things done. So I'll do another half can, one more pass. We'll have like 3 solid coats. And my final one with the artwork, we'll see. I don't want it to be too thick, but I might do a 4th, round of coats, a 4th full coat. We'll see on the one with the artwork. But anyway, okay, so that's kind of the general process that I'm following for this spray can, and it's looking really, really good. So where I'm at right now, I'm ready to go through and wet sand, and I need to wet sand because, as you saw here, there's the thing I don't like about using a rattle can, and I'm really thinking, man, if I was going to do this like, hey, send me your Playfields, I'll restore them for you. If I was going to be doing a lot of machines, rattle can's would not cut it for me, okay? The primary drawbacks I don't like about using the rattle can, and you can get around these, so I'm probably going to use this for my final Playfield still, because I don't want to invest in a specific gun and everything just for the Playfields, because I'm going to do what, a Playfield a year if I'm lucky. If I'm doing that many machines, like that's pretty fast, Steve. Like, the reality is I'm not going to be doing this all that often. But okay, the things that I was not liking about this is, it's a spray can, a rattle can. So what happened? Well, I started going through and spraying with my gloves, right? Always have your protection. I got my dual layer nitrile gloves on, right? And I would be spraying, I noticed I get these little drops every once in a while. I looked up and sure enough, my glove was just kind of barely entering the spray. So I figured, okay, I gotta not do that. So I started using this. This came when I bought it with Amazon, from Amazon, it came with it. And several people were like, don't use this thing. It doesn't work, it's better with your hand. I think it works great. You just kind of squeeze this open and clip it around. And then when you squeeze the trigger, that comes down and pushes that. So then nothing was getting in the way of the spray. So I started using this to go back and forth, and it worked a lot better. I still had issues though. Once I got down to where I was like the last third of the can, it would just start to kind of sputter because this is staying horizontal, so my can is not horizontal. And so once it got down a little bit too low, it would kind of sputter, and I was still getting some uneven sprays. I still started getting a few drips here and there. So I was, all right, well, once this can is about more than halfway out or so, I almost need to, like, as soon as it starts to sputter, I need to pretty much toss it, because otherwise you have all these drips. Like, look at this. You saw the ones over here, those drips, and I've got a bunch of other small ones through here. You can kind of see through the light. It's kind of hard to though. There's a chunk of it. I got a nice good one right there. Can you see that guy? It's kind of hard with the light. There's a drip there. Anyway, there's a number of these that, okay, maybe it's just my skill. I just need to get more practice with a rattle can and I can avoid that. But for me, there's just a chunk of that, little drops and things here and there were kind of squirted. And that's just that much more now I need to go through and kind of sand to get those flat. Well, then just means I'm taking even more off this layer, which means that I'm going to need to do an additional layer till I finally get what I really want. So anyway, that's really the only primary beef, is just being able to get a really good, smooth, consistent spray with a rattle can. It's just not going to be quite as good as an actual gun. Okay. Is it still going to be good enough? Is it going to be doable? Will we make it work? I think we can. It's just going to take a little more wet sanding, a little more time, a little more patience. But it's a pain to have to worry about doing that. Anyway, okay. So that's the process for spraying that's been working really well with this rattle can, the timing, etc. And now we're going to go through and do is we're going to wet sand, because as you saw here, there's kind of like this kind of like a rough patina. It's glossy but kind of like hazy. That's because we haven't sanded it. And once we wet sand this, it is going to be smooth as glass. It looks great. And we haven't even got to the point where we're polishing it yet, which is going to be the final stage. And it's going to be, I'm excited. I can't wait to see. I know it's going to be amazing. Okay, so wet sanding. I still have my handy dandy little longboard. Jamie uses a little palm sander. You can use whatever you want. I prefer to go through and just be using this guy. It works really well. So I'm using a 400 grit. And then after that, I came back through and used an 800 grit. And that is good enough to go between these primary layers until we're on our final one. Once we're down to what we think is our final coat and we're sanding, I'll do the 400, I'll do the 800, then we'll step up to 1,000, 1,500, and then a final 2,000 grit sandpaper, super, super fine. And then from there, we'll jump into polishing. So I'll come back and show you once we start polishing as well on the compound that I'm getting for that Jamie recommended. So, okay, anyway, big kudos to Jamie Boy. Thank you so much for helping me with this, Jamie. I was struggling initially. My timings were off. The way I was doing my coats was just wasn't right, and so I was not getting good results. But now it's coming along. So if I can get this peeled back. All right. Okay. And for wet sanding, we do mean wet. I've got a bucket of water here, a rag, and we are literally going to slop it on, and I'm squeezing the water out to where there is standing water. It's going to go through some of these holes, but lots of water. And I'm probably going to come back through and add even a little bit more water on here at some points. I hope you can see just how much water that is. I mean, it's like it's running off the edge over here, right? I kind of make a mess of my workspace, but it's a lot of water, okay? And you're gonna go through and just sand, and you want to be able to kind of feel the water underneath. And I need to clamp this down. I forgot to do that. I do need to clamp this in place. Okay. And like, I'm picking it up and making sure I get the water underneath it. And with the 400 grit, you don't need a whole lot of pressure, okay? You really don't. Change up directions a little bit. Okay, I know where I have my little spots. I will hit that just a little bit more to make sure that I get that. And once I feel it starting to grab a little too much, I'll add some more water. You'll start to see kind of this white buildup here of the clear coat, and that's a good thing, okay? That means we're taking some clear coat off, okay? And then, once I think I'm about there, I take another microfiber and I hurry and just wipe it down, okay? And then I look and I see, okay, I'm still gonna see a little bit of fuzz, a little bit of fade here and there, but like, are all my little splotches, are those gone? That's the primary thing I wanna make sure I'm getting rid of. He has just a tiny bit of a ring, so I'm gonna go past him a little bit. Whatever you leave, whatever you can see, if you leave it here and you can still see it, it's like, oh, that'll be gone eventually, right? If you don't knock it down now, when you do your next layer, you're just gonna cover it and you're gonna encase it in clear and glass. It's still gonna be there. Okay, so I've got a little something here. And it's really like getting in the right angle of the light. I feel makes all the difference, so you can really see things. There we go. Those ones are all gone. Those are gone. And you're gonna start getting like some white residue on your hands and stuff. It's all right. It washes off pretty easily. Okay, so I think I've got all the major things off that I saw were wrong. So now I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna switch to the 800 grit. Okay, at this point, it should look pretty clear. So now we're coming over. So you're not seeing that kind of that rough patina like you were before. You might always kind of feel like, oh, did I scrape it all off? But if you rub your fingers over, you can still feel it. So the clear is still there, but we don't have any of that kind of that like fuzz look to it, right? Dry off the excess. Dry off my workbench. Dry off the underside of the Playfield where all the water soaked through. And now, grab a few paper towels and your Naptha. Pour a healthy amount of that on and just kind of lightly wipe over the Playfield with the Naptha. Every time you wipe it with the Naptha, kind of brings back that shine that we're going to want to have at the end and tells you what things are really going to look like once we start buffing and polishing. And it's hard to really see the lighting, but not sure how well that's coming up on the camera, but it's looking good to me, and it feels, you can feel it, like it is smooth. Now this isn't even a perfect whitewood because I messed around with my epoxy and I didn't quite clean up as much as I should have. There's a couple of places you still seeing some ghosting from the epoxy, and I just kind of covered it. I should have taken more time, but oh well, it's my whitewood. But man, all these, it's smooth. It's getting smooth. So smooth. Okay. So we're getting there. We're getting really close. I'm going to go through and still do one more full round on this. So subcoats, spray lightly, 12 minutes, spray lightly twice, 2 passes, 12 minutes, half a can, and let it cure overnight. And then I think we're going to call it good enough for the whitewood. And we'll start doing some polishing as the next round. Okay, it's coming along though. All right, here we are, we're back. We've got our third clear coat all the way down. Let's kind of take a look and see how it's feeling, see how it's looking. And get the light right where you can kind of see the shine there. You see that? Nice and shiny it is. Boom, boom, boom. Pretty consistent all the way across. It used to be a big old crack or gap there, and now it's smooth as can be. I've got a couple places that didn't fill in exactly perfect, but I feel really good about the ones I did get filled in. And this is just a whitewood, so I am just itching to move on and get this thing polished and ready to go, so I can get some lights on and start playing with my light shows. So you see how there's kind of like this like satin patina to it because we haven't wet sanded it. So we're going to go through this one. I feel as level as I'm really going to worry about for the whitewood. And so I'm going to go through and start with the 800 grit wet sanding. I can tell right along here I've not been as even along the edge as I should have been. Let's see if you can see that. So can you see along the edge of my Playfield? I don't know how well you can see that. I don't know if the camera's catching that well enough. Now, one other area that you want to make sure you don't forget along the way you haven't seen me do is to probably sand your shooter lane groove, right? So get a rod, a round rod of some sort, right? That kind of fits that groove, and you can sand along that. Now I've sanded along the top and kind of sanded these edges in here, because if you've done your shooter lane right, the ball doesn't rest down, you know, cradled by that whole entire shooter groove. Instead it rides on these two edges. Okay, and so the bottom of the ball doesn't actually touch the shooter lane. It shouldn't. It should be riding right along these two edges. So there's minimal friction, and that's what helps guide the ball up. So, I mean, you sand it because you want it to look nice and smooth and pretty, but not so much because you have to worry so much about how the ball is going to ride along it, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit through here with my 2000 to clean that up, and otherwise I'm going to call it good because all the area that touches the ball is already really good and set. All right, so for me, switching onto the pads now. Green is my heavy cut, yellow is my medium cut, orange is my light cut. So it really goes in this order. Heavy, medium, light, fine, and finish. So I'm going to do these final 3. 1 per compound. All right. Let's see how this goes. Now, I'm sure you could go through and do this by hand, but I have a automotive polisher. That I will be using. All right, little thing I read online, saying people are using about just a medium speed, medium fast, 3 to 4 speed for this. It says shake well. So we are gonna shake well. Let this dry. I don't want water in here, so I let this dry before I hit it with the compound. Whew, that feels so good. Feels so smooth. Can't even tell there's inserts there. You do not want too much compound. All right, I'm gonna start with about that much. All right, first passive compound, medium speed, medium pressure for about 10 minutes. Starting to see some nice shine starting to build up in places. It's kind of hard to tell with the light, trying to get the light right to where you can tell, but it's getting there. Look, we're getting some good shine going. Okay, not all the way there, but we got 2 more levels of compound, so but it's getting there. Feel good about the direction we're moving. All right, everybody. So I want to bring you in and have you take a closer look at some of this again here. We're seeing shiny stuff, but then we're seeing things like this where there's kind of like these like noticeable like lines here, right? And talking to Jamie, he's like, if you can feel them with your fingernail at all, then you need to worry about that maybe your coat is a little too thin and maybe you kind of sanded through it in some certain spots. Versus if it looks like that, but it feels totally smooth, your fingernail to everything, that it means there's probably just like some planking that's happening underneath the clear, right, with poor quality wood. And I've got an area up here that we showed earlier. But this here, you really see it, but I can't really feel it. And so I think it's just kind of the crappy quality of the wood, and maybe it's a little bit wet on my wet sanding. But then even next to it, right over here, in this finer stuff, this, if I run my fingernail, I can actually kind of feel just a little bit of grooves going across. It doesn't feel totally smooth. I've even got some spots in here in the center which can't even really see all that much, but I can feel right through here. I can feel this one here, up through here. And that he's telling me, okay, if you can feel those different spots, then some of that he's like, how many coats did you put on? I said, well, I only really did probably about 2.5 cans worth for this. He's like, oh, all right, I would have expected 3 to 4. And I knew I was probably going a little bit thin, because like, oh, it's my whitewood, maybe I won't go all the way. But now that I'm like polishing and doing these other ones, I'm starting to feel some of this. And for a whitewood, like who cares, right? But I'm also wanting this to be like my practice for my final playfield. And like, if I can't get it right before my final playfield, I don't want to be doing like live practice on my final playfield, right? So anyway, I've got 3 or 4 areas. That's kind of this lower section through here. I can feel it at certain spots. Right here in the middle, I can feel kind of this narrow area right through here. Here is good, but here, a couple of spots where I was not probably even enough on my sanding. Here I can feel it. Anyway, so as much as like it's looking good, I'm seeing the process is starting to shine up through that first compound, and I want to continue. And it really probably would be, I mean, it's a whitewood, right? I'm just putting my inserts, I'm going to do the lighting, we're going to practice shots. This is good enough. But it's not just that. I don't want to go through a whole 3rd set of inserts practicing clear coat all over again. So I'm going to take this back down. I want to practice more and have a better final clear coat on this before I do my real playfield with real artwork. So I'm going to go back to, where is it? My sander. I'm going to go back and wet sand this back down to 400 all over. And I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna do 2 more of these solid coats. I'm gonna be sanding down quite a bit, and I've already polished, I can feel it. So I'm gonna rough this all up with the 400 everywhere, really good. And that's gonna back off probably a good coat or half of what I've done. And so I'm gonna go through and I'm going to do 2 more full coats that 24-hour period. It's Memorial Day weekend. Guess what I'm doing, hun? Between barbecuing. Anyway, I'm gonna go through her. It's Sunday night. I'm gonna wet sand this all down. I'm gonna get it ready, I'm gonna dry it out, get a naphtha, wipe it with naphtha. We're gonna go through and shoot. We're gonna do a whole nother can on this. I'm gonna let it dry overnight, and then tomorrow, after the barbecue tomorrow night, 24 hours after everybody's gone and done, I'm gonna go through and shoot a whole nother coat, and we're gonna let that dry. And then come Tuesday night, we're gonna come back and we're gonna start doing the polishing, the compound all over again. All right, so my camera turned off. Thought I was recording this whole last time. I went through and I did 1 more full heavy coat of everything using the process we talked about. I used a whole can, and it looked good. There was definitely a lot of kind of shimmer and fuzz to it. Man, I don't know why my camera turned off. It was on, but for some reason it turned off 10 seconds in. Anyways, and then I wet sanded to the 800 grit. I did probably about 3 rounds of that till I knocked down pretty much all the orange peel and all of that kind of that haze. And you can almost say, like, Steve, it looks like you kind of like almost sanded it all off to where it's gone. It's not shiny anymore, but that's what we want to do. It's still super smooth. I mean, the 800 grit, we're not taking off very much. Then I did 1 good one at the 1000, and now we're going to do 1500, and then we'll go down to 2000. And again, the goal by the end is we want pretty much all those kind of satiny, kind of sparkly areas to be gone and evened out. So everything looks as even as possible on this, and then we'll start polishing and bring that shine back up. That's my understanding anyway. All right, so yeah, doing some wet sanding. One thing that seems like inevitable when you get up to higher and higher grit sandpaper, you just start to kind of have like this suction on the water and almost kind of makes your sandpaper stick to the board. And I've heard people say put in, just like a drop of dish soap into the water, kind of break up that surface tension. I think it's supposed to help with that. I put in a number of drops of dish soap in it. I mean, maybe it helps a little bit, but you're still gonna get it. I think it's inevitable. No matter what, you're gonna get some of that natural kind of suction from the water. Before we come through and do this, we've got to clean up the other abrasive here with some more naphtha. In between every bit of work we're doing, we need to go through and get a good amount of naphtha. Clean it all up. We want all the old abrasive gone and off of this. So we'll be ready for the next finer abrasive, so we're not taking steps backwards in our process here. All right, we have evaporated, and we're ready for step number 2. All right, so I've gone through and I finished doing all the polishing as instructed. I'm not sure how well the camera picks it up. I think you see a little bit, but you can kind of see a little bit of like some lines go in this direction. So I still have some fine scratches from the wet sanding, is what I believe that is. And so basically when I went through the buffing compound, the first 2, I should have done a little bit more to help get rid of those. So we're gonna go through and we're gonna polish some more, see if we can get those buffed out. So that worked. And I know it worked because I had lines going through here all the way up to here, and I went back to the heavy cut and I spent another 10-15 minutes and I really focused on this area, and I didn't really bother so much up here, a little bit, and then move through, and those lines are gone here, but I can still kind of see them up here. So, and I'm tired of polishing, and My neck hurts from leaning over, so I'm going to call it good for the whitewood. But now I know that I've learned a number of things about my sanding and my polishing. I learned that when I'm sanding, I am putting too much pressure on this edge because I sanded down through the clear coat a lot more right along this edge than I did on the other side. I can see that now with the clear coat, so that's not good. So I'll definitely need to be able to be mindful of that when I do my final Playfield. And also, I could tell that I just didn't spend enough time at the 2000 grit. I probably should have went about twice as long on the 2000 grit because those lines I had really shouldn't have been there. I think they're left over from the 800 or the 1000. Maybe I just didn't go down through them well enough. I was able to buff it out, but I mean, I buffed about 3 times as long as Jamie said I should have. I did finally get them out. So I guess the 3 things for me. 1, would I wet sand? Make sure I spend just a little more time at each of those finer levels, 1000, 15, and 2000. Try to get a little bit smoother. I need to be very careful about my even pressure. Make sure I'm not pushing a little more every time it comes into my body. And if I maybe have this a little bit further in, not right on the edge, that might help. So I got to make sure I'm being a lot more even on my sanding because I definitely sanded off more clear coat right along here. And then the wet sand a little bit longer, and then take a little more time with my heavy cut polishing compound to make sure I get all those lines out. And now I did. And now it looks really good. Going through with our Naptha here. Come back through with a microfiber. And yeah. So this is definitely not perfect. I've got imperfections along the way. I mean, heck, I've got this wood lifting up here and there. But it's really close. And it's really close, and I think I've learned what I need to learn to feel a lot more confident about doing it right for my final Playfield, to where I can avoid the gotchas I had. So let's bring it in, see how well you can see it. So like right along here, see that difference where it doesn't really get shiny till here? You can kind of see this edge. That's where I sanded off too much of the clear coat, so it really doesn't hardly have much on it over there. See how the shimmer just kind of goes away at the edge? Doesn't come in until right about there. It should be going all the way to the edge, but it's pretty much down to the wood. I sanded off a whole bunch there. I also need to be thicker on my clear coat. Do a minimum of 4 cans, I think, for me. And this section through here, is it going to focus? Just looks so good. We're up here. I don't know how well, if it's kind of hard to see, it's kind of faint, but you still see, yeah, see right there, you can kind of see, you can see these lines going through, right? You kind of see those lines. So that's what I kind of had all over through here. But now down through here, come on, focus. Where I polished, is it going to focus? I'm not sure how well that's focusing for you. I'm not sure why it's not focusing. But anyway, it's, there you go. You can't see those lines through here. Wow. Anyways, take my word for it. The lines are gone down there. Hopefully you're catching some of that. It looks really good for the most part. Again, I've got blemishes here and there. I've got things I learned along the way, but I feel, oh yeah, this looks really so good right here where I've really spent the extra time polishing. Anyway, I feel confident that for my final Playfield, I've learned enough that if I'm careful and take my time, this should turn out really well. Okay, and now, good enough because I'm excited. I got to go through and do the Playfield swap so we can get the LEDs in here, start playing around with our light shows that we start seeing on the computer. I want to see them in real life, so that's going to be the next step. All right, guys, this has been one of my longest videos. I've been going on this for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks now, and through different coats and cans of paint, cans of spray. It's taken a long time. So the other thing is to go back through and kind of clean up the compound out of your little holes everywhere. Make sure you get all that stuff out. You don't want that hanging around. So we'll clean up all of that compound, wipe it down one more time, and then we'll be good to go through and populate it. Okay. Hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully you learned from some of my mistakes, because I definitely made a lot along the way, and hopefully I can edit this down to not be a 4-week video. So anyways, all right guys, thanks so much for watching, and if you haven't started your own pinball machine yet, why not? Does it take time? Yes, it's taking time. The steps take time. I will not lie. It's a project. I've been doing this for over 2 years now. Still fast by some standards. A lot of people are taking even multiple years, and it's fine, because the process, the journey, right, is half the experience. If not, I mean, it's even more the experience. It's all about the journey. It's all about the journey, about having fun, building this stuff up. Man, I got a crook in my neck from leaning over. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Yeah, we'll catch you next time. See you around, guys. We'll be playing with lights. Bye-bye. guys.